Sarah Boone's life changed when it came to 2025. Right before ringing in the new year, she was transferred from the jail to a processing center where she is going to be awaiting her transfer to prison. A prison, I might add, which has absolutely terrible stories about it. But at the processing center, Sarah Boone has been given a handbook, an inmate orientation handbook for the reception center, which will tell her about what her life is going to be like there. And because this is a standardized orientation handbook, it is readily available online, and I have it for you today. Now, I am not the first to cover this. I saw that Tanika 2 Cents was covering this, and I immediately rushed to find this document, which I did, but I haven't read it yet. I have not read through this. We are going to get my raw reaction to seeing what Sarah Boone was going to be told when she arrived at this processing center. She doesn't like living by the rules. If you haven't followed my previous video, Sarah Boone wasn't listening to guards and was trying to get other inmates in trouble in jail. So let's see how this processing center will handle things. This handbook is intended for your use while you are incarcerated with the Florida Department of Corrections. It is intended to help you understand the general rules, procedures, requirements, and routines of the reception center and your permanent institution. It will also inform you of programming available to you. This inmate handbook will help serve as a guide to assist you in preparing for your term of incarceration, which for Sarah Boone is life. Keep this handbook with your personal belongings for future reference. As the department is continually evolving, it is impossible to cover all the issues or to answer all the questions you might have through this handbook. Therefore, if you have any questions or concerns during this period of orientation, you should not hesitate to consult with a staff member. They're going to regret telling Sarah that. Staff members are trained to help you during this orientation period and throughout your incarceration. You are facing a new challenge in your life that can be used for your betterment if you take advantage of the opportunities offered to you. There will be opportunities throughout your incarceration for self-betterment and to maximize your chances of successful re-entry to society. Again, Sarah Boone has life. You are encouraged to take steps to make successful re-entry a reality for yourself. Processing. Over the next few days, you will receive both verbal and written information that will be very important to you during your incarceration. It is important that you listen to all instructions given and take the time to read all the information provided in this handbook. The results of your assessment here will determine what institution you will be transferred to. Again, it is important that you listen and cooperate with all staff. The following is a list of several events that will take place on your first day as you are being processed through the transfer and receiving station. This will be right around Sarah Boone's New Year. Verification of commitment information, inventory of personal property, your money deposited into the inmate bank in your name, issue of a Department of Corrections identification number, brief medical exam, haircut, personal grooming, shower and issue of state clothing, electronic fingerprints taken, state photo identification issued, orientation on day-to-day living and working activities, receipt of general information about what you can expect while at the reception center, receipt of general information about what you can expect at your permanent facility, receipt of written and verbal instruction on the disciplinary, grievance, and protection procedures. Again, that is going to be very regretful for them because Sarah Boone is going to have every grievance imaginable. In the days following your arrival at the reception center, you will receive a number of exams and assessments that will include physical, psychological, spectrum, educational, and substance abuse screenings. The results of these exams will be used to determine any personal needs you may have in any of these areas. A member of the classification department will interview you to obtain information about your background, education, employment, criminal history, release plans, and other information. You will also be required to complete a spectrum assessment. You know that when it comes to education, Sarah Boone is going to brag that she had all A's in high school. The Spectrum process is a way for us to get to know you better so we can develop a program plan just for you. The Florida Department of Corrections strives to provide the tools you need to succeed and lead a productive life. Spectrum will help us determine what these tools are by asking you a series of questions. The Spectrum questions are all about you, such as your thoughts, feelings, and relationships. When it's your turn for a Spectrum assessment or review, we strongly encourage you to be open and honest. Not getting that from Sarah when answering the questions so we can develop an accurate case plan designed to benefit you. Your processing through the reception center is done in individual and group settings on certain days. For each stage of the process, you will be given a schedule to follow. The photo ID that you receive is part of your uniform. You should never be outside your housing area without your ID in your possession and properly displayed properly. This identification badge is required for you to receive your mail, eat in the dining hall, to make canteen purchases, access your electronic inmate bank account, or be accepted for interview during any of the reception processes. If your ID card is missing, report it to your housing officer. If you destroy your card, you will be responsible for paying for a replacement and disciplinary action may be taken. While wearing a shirt with a collar, you must wear this identification card, picture side showing, attached to your left shirt pocket or left shirt collar if the shirt does not have a pocket. If you are wearing a V-neck shirt, attach the ID on the right chest area of your clothing with the tab provided for that purpose. Female inmates will attach the identification card to the left breast area of your clothing if wearing a dress. Why is it backwards for... Why is it not always left or right? I know it doesn't really matter, but why does it flip for a V-neck? Clothing issued. Upon arrival, you will be issued sufficient clothing according to institutional policy, including outer clothing, underwear, socks, and shoes. All inmates are required to make an exchange of outer clothing at least twice per week. Anytime you are outside of your housing unit, you are expected to be wearing regulation clothing, which is the state-issued blue shirt, blue trousers, underwear, socks, and shoes. Shirts are to be tucked into your trousers, and all buttons are to be buttoned with the exception of the topmost collar button. At a female institution, a state-issued dress may be worn as a uniform. You know, I have never once thought about inmates wearing a dress in like prison. I don't know. That to me that feels weird, but I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. Each institution may have policies that permit this attire to be worn in different locations at different times. These policies governing dress will be reviewed with you upon arrival at your permanent facility. Callouts. A callout authorizes your housing unit officer or work program supervisor to issue you a pass to travel to and from a location of your callout. Passes are utilized when movement outside the housing unit or work program assignment is required. Your failure to report as instructed may result in disciplinary action. General rules. You are expected to comply with all sections of Rule 33-601.314. Rules of prohibited conduct and penalties for infractions during the orientation process will be given instructions as to the rules and policies which you must follow. Inmate requests. To request an interview with your classification officer, you must complete an inmate request form, a DC 6-236, and place it in the institutional mail. Staff may deny or approve your request for an interview. Unauthorized areas. You are not to be in an unauthorized area unless accompanied and supervised by staff. If you are observed in an unauthorized area, your presence may be interpreted as an escape attempt, and appropriate action will be taken. Should any helicopter or aircraft attempt to land on or near the property of any facility, you must move away from the aircraft. Movement towards the aircraft will be viewed as an escape attempt. Housing. During your first day at the reception center, you'll be assigned a bed in a specific housing area. You'll be responsible for the cleanliness of your individual living area. This includes your bunk, locker, and immediate floor area around your bunk. You are responsible for ensuring your own immediate individual living area is free of contraband. This includes your bunk area, mattress, locker, foot, or walled locker. Should you find contraband, you must notify correctional staff immediately. You may not store any perishable items. So no cheese. No cheese for Sarah. The dorm officer can address any questions or concerns that you may have concerning your housing. Beds will be made with a 6-inch white collar 8 to 10 inches from the top. Use of telephone. You will be given the opportunity to create a list of telephone numbers of people whom you may place collect calls. You will be able to call only people on your approved list. You will periodically be able to add numbers or remove numbers from this list. Staff may approve or deny a number on your list. All telephone calls are subject to being recorded and or electronically monitored. All legal calls must be justified and documented. Inmates requesting to make such calls may do so through the use of an inmate request, and they have the name of that form again, to the classification department. Use or possession of a cell phone is not authorized and will result in immediate disciplinary action. That's just a flashback to Sarah wanting to have her phone in the jail because of her case. Oh, everyone remember that? Her wanting access to her phone? The department feels strongly that an acceptable standard of grooming must be maintained. Your personal hygiene is important to the health and comfort of yourself as well as others. These standards will have the same priority as your permanent facility. Failure to follow the listed hygiene requirements below may result in disciplinary action. Hair is to be groomed in accordance with Rule 33603.101 Florida Administrative Code. You will not alter your appearance by changing the color of your hair. No adornment of the nails is permitted. Inmates in general population will shower at least once a day. Inmates in restricted housing will shower at least 3 times a week. All inmates shall elect either to be clean-shaven or grow and maintain a half-inch beard. Such beard shall include all the hair that grows naturally on the face and front of the neck, excluding eyebrows and eyelashes. Inmates shall not display any other type, style, or arrangement of hair on the face nor front of the neck. Inmates shall not sculpt nor edge their beards. No numbers, symbols, letters, or other designs shall appear in inmate beards. Those male inmates who desire to remain clean-shaven shall be clipper shaved 3 times per week, and those inmates who desire to grow a half-inch beard shall have their beards trimmed 3 times per week with a clipper fitted with a half-inch guard. Programs. The classification department is divided into teams. It is important that you are aware of the team to which you are assigned, since we'll be making recommendations concerning program assignments. Classification team members will ask many questions concerning program assignments, custody, transfers, visitor work assignments, your background, and current case. Your classification officer will be evaluating your overall adjustment, and his evaluation will play an important part in decisions that must be made. You will be expected to participate in any programs to which you are recommended. It is during this time of processing that the decision will be made as to what permanent facility you will be transferred. One of the most common concerns that a newly incarcerated inmate has is about gain time. Your classification officer will be able to tell you what type of gain time you are eligible to receive. Again, Sarah Boone has life. It's just nice to say. Custody assignments. An issue that inmates are usually concerned about is their custody level. Your custody is determined by a number of factors, including length of sentence, criminal history, any history of violence, escape history, and a number of other important factors. Your classification officer will explain your custody in more detail at your classification interview. The following are the current custody classifications. Community. Community custody refers to a class of inmates who are eligible for placement at a community residential facility. Minimum custody refers to that class of inmates who are eligible for outside work assignments but not for placement at a community residential facility. Medium custody refers to the class of inmates who are eligible for placement at a work camp with a secure perimeter but are not eligible for placement in an outside work assignment without armed supervision. Close custody refers to a class of inmates who must be maintained within an armed perimeter or under direct armed supervision when outside of a secure perimeter. Maximum custody for the class of inmates who are under a sentence of death. Would Sarah be close, or would she be medium? I mean, there's a secure perimeter for medium, but I would think close, but I don't know. I mean, second degree murder, right? So she didn't get maximum, but too bad. We'll continue. Detainers and warrants. Classification staff will notify you in the event of a detainer warrant, including an out-of-state detainer that is filed against you or when a detainer is canceled or withdrawn. Furloughs. Inmates classified as minimum or community custody and who have met additional required criteria are eligible for consideration for furlough upon approval of the warden. A furlough may be granted for an inmate to visit a dying relative, attend the funeral of a relative, or for other compelling reasons consistent with public interest. I bet no matter what, Sarah is going to try to be like, can I get a furlough to go to my son's graduation? Or can I get a furlough for this? Even though she knows she's not eligible. Institutional placement. After completing the orientation process at a reception center, inmates are transferred to a permanent facility. Placement is based on individual needs such as programs, education, health, and availability of bed space. Inmates may request a transfer from their classification officer after they have been in an institution for a significant amount of time with proper institutional adjustment. Job assignments. You do not have the option to refuse work assignments. Inmates are assigned jobs based on institutional need, prior employment, background, and skill level. While the resources available, your classification officer will take into consideration any desire you may have for on-the-job training. You will be expected to perform your assigned job in a satisfactory and acceptable manner. Visitation. Visitation is a privilege and not a right. Inmates may be eligible to receive regularly scheduled visits from people on their approved visitors list, except during reception processing. There are 2 ways for family and friends to apply for visitation once you have arrived at your permanent facility. Electronically through the Department of Corrections public webpage, or through routine mail by paper application. You can request paper application from your classification officer for mailing. Your classification officer will assist you with adding or removing people from your list. Visitation is regularly scheduled for Saturdays and Sundays. Visitation is extended to the following holidays: New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, Day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Day. Weird list to me. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday is a weird one for me to be mixed in here, personally. Same with Labor Day, but I guess, yeah. The others make sense, I guess, but then I'm like, well, if we have the day after Thanksgiving, why don't we have the day after Christmas? But I guess maybe they're thinking New Year's is close enough. I don't know. You may also receive legal and special visits if approved by the warden or deputy warden. The warden or deputy warden reserves the right to disapprove these visits as well as the right to deny regularly scheduled visitation. So, yeah, Sarah, I don't know if people will be visiting her, but I wouldn't be shocked if she does things that ends up getting her punishments that means she can't get visitation. Health services. During your incarceration, your medical, dental, and mental health needs will be continuously evaluated. Can we have a moment of silence for whoever is in charge of her mental evaluations? Throughout your incarceration, you may communicate your health concerns to medical staff by reporting to routine sick call, by declaring a medical emergency to staff, or by submitting a written request to healthcare staff. During orientation, you'll be advised it's a sick call and emergency treatment procedures. Medical emergencies are actual emergencies. That I could see that being abused. You are not to use this avenue to obtain routine medical care. Staff will advise you as to what constitutes a medical emergency. Inmates who elect to sign up for routine sick call will be advised to copay as required by Florida Statute 9456037. This copay will be assessed for self-initiated non-emergency clinical visits for medical, mental health, or dental care. I would assume that because Sarah has no money that all of that's going to get waived. Maybe. I don't know. Here we go. We have the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, to establish guidelines in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and Section 504 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. To provide equal access to the Department of Programs, Services, Activities to inmates who have documented disabilities which affect major life activities. The department has many programs, accommodations, and auxiliary aids devices available for disabled inmates who meet the criteria based on medical's assessment. Upon reception, you will be assessed by medical and given an impairment grade, if applicable, in regards to your disability, whether it be hearing, vision, or mobility. Any accommodation or auxiliary aid device you may need will be addressed upon reception. If you have no impairment upon reception but feel you developed one during your incarceration, then you can request to be reevaluated at that time. Any accommodation or auxiliary aid device not addressed at your initial reception will be requested by you filling out Form DC2-530A, reasonable modification of accommodation request, and submitting it to the institutional ADA coordinator. This form is available in the library, medical, classification, and your housing unit. Procedure 604-101, Americans with Disabilities Act provisions for inmates, explains in detail the ADA as pertains to inmates and how to access many programs, auxiliary aids, devices, and other accommodations the department has available. You may request a copy of the procedure from the library or the assistant warden of programs by filling out a DC 6-236 inmate request. Religion. Remember, I stated before that I think Sarah Boone's going to try to start a cult. So this is an important one. Efforts are made to accommodate each inmate's religious beliefs, when doing so does not jeopardize security. Should you wish to discuss personal or religious matters with either a chaplain or a volunteer, you may notify the dorm officer, a work supervisor, or submit an inmate request. Non-denominational services are held in all major institutions. Some of our institutions take advantage of local clergy and other volunteers to provide religious services. The department has designated faith-based institutions which offer enhanced programming designed to rehabilitate, reintegrate inmates into the community, comply with restorative justice programming, and offer a fuller range of religious accommodations than those institutions not designated as faith-based institutions. For more information, contact your classification officer. Okay, we have the law library. Sarah's going to want to be there a lot, I'm assuming. Inmates at major institutions will have access to a law library. The law library will provide research materials, case law, statute books, and related services. In addition, law clerks are available to assist you. Your institution will also provide notary services for legal documents. Legal work is to be done during your off-duty time. However, arrangements may be made to provide you additional time to conduct your legal work. Each library will have different operating hours based upon the needs and schedules of the local facility. If your location does not have a major law library, you may have certain issues researched at a major law library for you, and copies of the necessary documents will be mailed to you. Requests for this service should be routed through your designated institutional staff. Library. It is the policy of the Florida Department of Corrections to provide inmates with access to a complete library service program. This includes printed materials such as books, magazines, newspapers, as well as audio and visual collections. I wonder how much, maybe over the years it would, but I was wondering how much of that would include Sarah Boone, right? Like, are there any books or, like, not books, but magazines and newspapers obviously covering her case? There might be things she's not seen before that she's going to see for the first time. And if they do make, like, a documentary or a series on Netflix or Hulu, possibly there'd be access to it through something like this. I'm not sure. It'd be really interesting, her reaction to seeing other people's reactions to her. Because remember, Sarah Boone doesn't like you, and she doesn't like me. And she's made that very clear in her letters. But she has not gotten to, like, sit down and read YouTube comments, right? Sarah Boone has not gotten to sit down and actually read a lot of the statements made about her from, like, different organizations and you know, reporters. She hasn't gotten to see it. She's heard it secondhand, and it made her mad. How angry is she going to be wanting to hear it, you know, from the first time? She's going to want to hear it and see it if available. Materials will vary from institution to institution. However, a visit to your permanent institution's library should make you aware of the special services it offers. Library hours will also vary at different locations. Library schedules are designed to maximize inmate use. Your institutional library will be open during part of the weekend and or after normal work hours to provide you with an opportunity to visit the library during your off-duty times. Inmates in administrative confinement or close management may not be able to physically visit the library, but may still have services available. Procedures will vary from institution to institution. You are responsible for the materials you use or check out of the library. Destruction or theft of library materials can lead to formal disciplinary action that can include the suspension of your library privileges, as well as requiring you to pay any replacement costs. Academic education. You may wish to take advantage of academic education or vocational training opportunities. A test of adult basic education will be given to determine your specific educational needs. If you are interested in enrolling in school or assisting other inmates as a tutor, contact the education department when you arrive at your assigned institution. I could see Sarah wanting to be a tutor. I could see Sarah scoring so badly she can't do it. Special education. The Department of Correction also provides a special education program for inmates under the age of 21 who have been identified as having special education needs or may have been enrolled in public school special needs education program. Special needs education needs will be initially determined during reception processing. Vocational training. Vocational training is available to provide inmates an opportunity to acquire vocational skills in order to obtain a job after release. If you're interested in enrolling in a vocational program, contact the education department at your assigned facility. Self-betterment and wellness programming. Self-betterment programs addressing various subjects from your personal development to reentry may be available at your assigned facility. Additionally, wellness programs addressing topics on physical health may also be available. These programs are designed to afford you the opportunity to engage in activities while you are incarcerated to promote a healthy lifestyle and help you spend your free time in a positive manner. Available vary by facility. Youthful offenders. Inmates meeting certain criteria may be considered youthful offenders if sentencing under Youthful Offender Act or if such classification is determined appropriate. These inmates are housed in a designated facility as appropriate in accordance with Florida statutes. Those facilities housing youthful inmates implement programming aimed at reducing inmate idleness and increasing young inmates' chances of becoming a law-abiding citizen upon reentry into the community. Community work release. And I know a lot of this isn't applicable to Sarah Boone, but I'd rather read it for a couple reasons. Number one, it's interesting. Number two, she might try to get it. That'd be funny if we find that out. A work release provides inmates in community custody the opportunity to work in paid employment in the community and return to the facility each night. Inmates pay a certain portion of their take-home for their subsistence, savings, support of dependents, and restitution of their offenses. Inmates may also be allowed furloughs with immediate family members once per week, up to 8 daylight hours. In addition to work release, inmates in community custody can participate in the Transition Center program up to 12 months with the remainder of their sentence not to exceed 14 months in paid employment. And there's for more detailed information concerning qualification for work release placement, contact your classification officer. Operations. Contraband. Contraband is defined as any article or item you may have in your possession or in your property that is not issued and has not been approved by the department. Specifics are contained in Rule 33-602.203, Florida Administrative Code. Possession of any contraband may result in disciplinary action. Court procedures. Your whereabouts will be accounted for at all times. A system of count procedures, not court. Your whereabouts will be accounted for at all times. A system of counts will take place in each and every institution. You will follow all instructions given to you by staff during these counts. Your cooperation in following all count procedures is mandatory at all times. Failure to comply may result in disciplinary action. Discipline. You're responsible for providing by all rules, policies, institutional procedures. The rules of prohibited conduct and penalties can be found in Rule 33-601.314 Florida Administrative Code. Food service. Food service operation will vary by location. You'll be provided 3 meals a day. Most locations will prepare each tray identically, and you will pick up the next tray completed at the end of the line. Special diets will be accommodated only by approval of the medical department. Other rules may include no talking. Once you go through the serving line, you may not go back through the line. You may not cut in line. You may be designated seating arrangements. You may not skip seats or save seats for other inmates. You must clean your eating area and turn in all trays, cups, and utensils before leaving. Do not take food or utensils outside the dining hall unless authorized to do so. So that means no snacks. No snacks for Sarah. Inmate banking. While you are incarcerated, you may establish an inmate bank account. Any monies that you may bring in with you will be taken from you and transferred to inmate banking in central office, and an inmate bank account will be set up in your name. All transactions are electronic. Information about deposits and withdrawals will be given to you during orientation. Inmate bank statements are provided once per month. Canteen services. Canteen services will normally be available on a daily basis according to the posted schedule. Only one order will be taken from an inmate at a time. Inmates will not be permitted to make purchases for another inmate. You must have your picture ID in hand in order to purchase items from the canteen. There is a weekly purchase limit. Grievances. The department has a grievance process available for you to resolve any issues you may have. You are encouraged to make every effort to resolve your issue prior to filing a grievance. There are two types of grievances, informal and formal. Grievance types and procedures will be explained to you during orientation. It can be found in Rule 33-103 Florida Administrative Code. Mail. You may correspond with whomever you desire, except the following: those who do not wish for you to correspond with them, any other inmate at any other correctional facility without prior approval, with a minor whose parents or guardians do not consent. If Brian Boone, theoretically, is given full custody of the son, could he disallow Sarah from contacting the son? Also, whether she has custody or not, any sort of custody, can the son, being the son and a minor, say himself he doesn't want to be corresponded with? Either way, this means that Sarah Boone has letters that might get out of correctional facilities. All incoming and outgoing routine mail will be inspected. All mail and packages will be sent to the U.S. Postal Service. You'll be entitled to legal and privileged mail. Legal and privileged mail will be opened in the presence of a staff member and inspected for contraband. Property. The amount of personal property you may have will be limited. All approved personal property will be kept neatly in an approved storage space. Any excess will be considered contraband and may be confiscated. Included in personal property is reading material. You'll be only permitted to receive publications that are on the approved reading list. Protection issues. If at any time during your incarceration you're concerned for your safety from staff or inmates, immediately notify a staff member so your concerns will be evaluated and appropriate action taken to ensure your safety and well-being. Prison Rape Elimination Act. In accordance with the Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA, of 2003, has adopted a zero-tolerance policy towards sexual assault, battery, and sexual harassment by inmates or staff. If you feel any of these have happened to you or another inmate, immediately notify staff. And they have a phone number, can be found in the columns. All calls will not be recorded, so you can call without being recorded. Additionally, all cases made to the advocacy hotline will remain confidential. The department takes all allegations very seriously and investigates all reports. Let's see here. There is no such thing as legal consensual sex in prison. Department of Corrections policy and the law prohibits sexual behavior between inmates. That could be an issue for her. Those who commit sexual assault, battery, or sexual harassment face legal action. If necessary, the department will seek out criminal charges. If you require victim advocacy services, all provided information will be kept confidential except information that requires mandatory reporting, such as if you intend to harm yourself or someone else. If you would like the victim advocate to report a PREA allegation for you, you must sign a release of the information. So here we have security threat groups. The security threat groups are formal or informal inmate groups, gangs, organizations, or associations consisting of 3 or more members. So her future cult could technically fall under this. A common name or common identifying signs, colors, or symbols. Members or associates who individually or collectively engage in or have engaged in a pattern of gang activity, criminal activity, or department rule violations. And remember, Sarah Boone already was called out for having a group of people try to take actions together against another inmate to get them in trouble. Potential to act in concert to pose a threat or potential threat to the public, staff, visitors, other inmates, or offenders, or secure or orderly operation of an institution, probation office, or other department, property, or department activity or function. Security threat groups pose a threat to other inmates, staff, and visitors. These groups recruit members in prison and are organized to facilitate illegal activities inside and outside of prison. Becoming involved in a security threat group, gang, will result in your identification as a member of that group and can affect your eligibility for job assignments, certain types of transfers, and can result in the following: disciplinary action, placement in close management, threats and extortion to family members, threats and extortion to you, injury from assaults by other STG members, outside charges for participating in illegal activity, death. Synthetic drugs. Synthetic drugs are chemically laced substances similar to marijuana, cocaine, or methamphetamine. These drugs are commonly known as K2, spice, lab manufactured THC, and bath salts. These drugs are dangerous because you don't know what chemical you are ingesting. Today's K2 is often made from chemicals that are dangerous if swallowed or inhaled and have no natural way of leaving the body. Using K2 or drugs like K2 can result in disciplinary action, outside charges, violent behavior, memory loss, vomiting, organ shutdown, or death. Use of force. Inmates are given an opportunity to provide a written statement following a use of force. Your written statement will be included with the use of force report and reviewed by the Warden and Inspector General's office. Permanent institution orientation. When you have completed the orientation process at the reception center, you'll be transferred to an appropriate permanent facility. When you arrive at your permanent institution, you'll receive another orientation which will provide you with specific information regarding what you can expect and what is expected of you while housed at the institution. The information you have learned during orientation at the reception center will prepare you for life at your permanent institution. Use this handbook as a basic resource of information. Contact your classification officer for more information if there's anything you do not understand. Planning for release, which she doesn't get, but planning for release begins now. Make use of the resources and programs available to you during your incarceration to maximize your chances of successful re-entry. Locating an acceptable residence to live in once released can be challenging, especially if you are a sex offender. There are no longer any free traditional housing structures for sex offenders. If you are a sex offender, begin planning for release now. You are encouraged to contact your family and friends now for their support, including financial, of your successful re-entry society. You are encouraged to seek assistance from them to overcome the challenges you might face facing an acceptable place to live after release. Final words of advice. If you have any questions or concerns, consult a staff member about what is bothering you. Make use of your time. Take advantage of your programs offered to you. Make purpose of your stay to improve yourself and your situation. Prepare yourself for successful re-entry into society. Notice. You are hereby put on notice that of July 1st, 2010, this is a newer rule, lewd or lascivious exhibition in presence of an employee is a felony offense. Lewd or lascivious exhibition in the presence of an employee, as used in section of the item. Employee may mean any person employed by or performing contractual services for a public or private entity, operating a facility on any person employed or by performing contractual services for the corporation, operating the prison industry enhancement programs or the correctional work programs under Part 2 of Chapter 946. The term also includes any person who is a parole officer with the Florida Commission on Offender Review. Facility means a state correctional institution as defined in 944.02 or a private correctional facility as defined in 944.710. A person who is detained in a facility may not intentionally masturbate. What is unintentionally? How do you do it unintentionally? Intentionally expose the genitals in a lewd or lascivious manner, or intentionally commit any other sexual act that does not involve actual physical or sexual contact with the victim, including but not limited to sadomasochistic abuse, sexual bestiality, or the stimulation of any act involving sexual activity in the presence of a person he or she knows or reasonably should know as an employee. A person who violates paragraph A commits lewd or lascivious exhibition in the presence of an employee, a felony of the third degree provided in, and then they list statutes. Could you imagine? Just picture this, right? Imagine we've all forgotten about Sarah Boone. We've moved on. We're covering the Lori Daybell case, other cases, maybe Rudy Giuliani still causing problems in his case, something like that. And then you find out that Sarah Boone is facing a brand new felony charge. And you're thinking, oh my God, did Sarah kill someone in prison? And the answer is no. She was determined to be intentionally masturbating. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, that is the handbook. That's the handbook. Now there's probably a handbook for the final facility she ends up in. I probably could look at that. My internet is now back, so I thought it'd be out the rest of the day, so this might come up earlier than I thought. That would be a video for another time. I'm sure there's probably a handbook for inmates, I would think. Just one of those things I expected to be codified. I just never thought to cover it, to be honest. I mean, I was looking through some employee stuff involving the processing center, but I did not think about the inmate orientation handbook at all. Thank you, YouTube recommendations, for putting Tanika 2 Cents' video up. Again, her channel. I've watched some of it before. She got a hold of stuff like inmate behavior notes with Sarah Boone that weren't submitted in the actual case itself, and a lot of interesting stuff like that. I didn't watch her coverage of this handbook because I wanted to go into it fresh. I'm glad I did. So that's available as something else with Sarah Boone if you'd like to watch. Mentioned, I believe, in my last video that my current plan, and it's still up in the air. The reason this hasn't happened is also I'm busy, but also because I am torn on how exactly I want to do this. I want to do it as best I can and then try to improve it as I go. I think right now what I want to do with the Lori Daybell case, and this is up for change, is I have a timeline that a news organization wrote up to the trial. So I think what I want to do is try to follow that timeline as best I can. For example, watch her police interview. I have the raw police interview saved so that I can watch it. I have not watched it. I thought about watching that. Basically talking about what led up to that first interview, watching that interview, and maybe cutting off the first video there, and then trying to like take segments and do a playlist so that while I wasn't following the case from the beginning, if someone doesn't know about the case, they can start from the front and kind of work forwards, like as I'm learning about it at the same time. I don't know how difficult that would be because I'm sure there's going to be bleed over where things I already know, get referenced in the past. So it's not going to be perfect, but that's currently my plan. But it is up in the air. I don't really want to do it until I'm sure of how I want to do it, because I don't want to have to redo like a part 1 video. So that's kind of slowing me down. I'm hoping to do it this weekend, but that's not a guarantee. I thankfully was able to had some time. I was able to rush. I got a new headset. My old headset finally broke, the one that I think I showed this in the last video, but a lot of people don't watch the Rudy videos. This is all like super glue that's been on it, holding it together, and it finally gave out. So I had to rush out and spend like $60. I had to get a headset. And really, it's not even a headset I really like, to be honest. But it does the job. So I have this for now, and if I have to replace it later with something I like better, then I'll have a backup in case something happens to that headset. My headsets either last years or they get broken accidentally really soon. This one seems to be pretty sturdy, so it seems like it'd be a good backup headset just for practice, to have it in the background. Trying to think of anything else that I want to mention. I showed the new Sarah Boone mugshot. This is the newest one we have that I'm aware of at this time. I've seen some people going back and like rewatching the Sarah Boone trial. I'm not against that, but I'm not willing to do that right now. That would be like a year out thing, you know? Like if we're a year later and I feel the need, I might do a video covering the trial again or something, but it's too soon for that for me. I'd rather look into like Lori Daybell or some of the other cases that I have stashed away. And of course, I am currently keeping track of a convoy protest movement in Canada, which convoy protests, I mean, if you've never followed a convoy protest, it is not what you see in the media. You're not seeing in the media where the American convoy outside of, I think it was Portland, pulled over and fired bullets at people on an overpass and shot water out of a fire truck, right? Like that stuff doesn't get covered. There's so many things that like a lot of people don't know that happens in those groups and how dysfunctional they are, and I find them fascinating. And the thing is, these groups, at its core, a lot of the people involved in the protest, what's the point of a protest if no one knows about it, right? There's a lot of live streamers, and because of that, if you can take the time and switch live stream to live stream of whatever happens, you will find disgusting behavior that is normalized in these groups, just to put it bluntly. Like whatever you're thinking about disgusting behavior, it's probably worse than that, because it's so normalized. And they appear to be trying to start up a new convoy plan in Canada for this month. So I started looking into it. I did a video, and they like panic privated the group because there was already infighting that was getting criticized, and people were being pulled out, and about why is this person involved? I don't trust this person. Does this person work for the federal government? All sorts of craziness, and they just took everything private. So I don't know if you know that's still happening. They might have literally given up after eyes were put on them. But that's something I'm following. And of course, starting in February, there are a bunch of game releases. Some I have friends that want me to play with them. Some of them I want to play for my own fun. Some are probably just going to be so profitable on my gaming channel to do coverage and guides and things that I'm going to have to dedicate time to them in February. I'd be an idiot not to. So February might be a little less on the videos, but we'll have to see like what exactly pulls me in with that. Beyond that, I think that's really all the channel updates and things. I will say I am eyeing possibly getting a new computer because I am worried this computer is going to break on me. It is 9 years old, I think. 8 or 9 years old at this point. And they just announced brand new graphics cards. So I'm like, well, that sounds awesome, because what I did last time is I bought, when it first came out, set myself up for an extended time. But my computer's so old, I'd have to buy like a whole new setup, and you're talking like $2,000, and I can't really afford it. So I'm like fighting myself on that one. That'll probably it'll probably end up happening at some point, especially if I find a good deal or something. So if that happens and I have a new computer, the reason I want to mention that is because if I have a new computer, that means my software all is getting wiped. So my audio is going to suck for a bit. My video is going to suck for a bit. I'm going to have to dial everything back in. So that's just putting that out there that it might not be great for a little bit, even though it's better, because I'll have to like dial in like everything, right? For like the video capture. Like, let me see here. Show you an example. Like, let's say my webcam is a little different. So yeah, but if that happens, I'll like probably post something in like the community tab. If you don't check that, I do post there a little more often lately, just with little things or things I'm working on or updates to things I don't think are worthy of a video yet. I put that stuff in the community tab. So if you haven't checked there, that exists. Trying to do like more of a channel update now, since I seem to be doing those with Sarah Boone content, and a lot of people do like the Sarah Boone content, and they're most likely going to check this out. I am still looking at new ideas of cases to cover and stuff like that. And again, I appreciate everyone that tunes in, subscribes, anyone who's used like my Buy Me a Coffee or just the dollar membership on YouTube or just comments or the super chats. Just people have been doing those, which is crazy to me. I don't know. It still feels weird when people like do a super chat and stuff. You know, like they enjoyed the content enough to do that, and I'm really thankful. And I probably should name like thank people more. More like I like the end of a video or whatever. But it always feels weird to do that because it always feels like how do I want to put it? I don't want to feel like I'm thanking people to encourage more people to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like I try to thank everyone though, and I just hope you'll enjoy the content, enjoy what I cover. I know this channel can be a little mix here, and I know not everyone agrees with some of the stuff I cover because not true crime 100% of the time, but most of it involves crime in some fashion. Some of it involves active crimes that are going on. Some of it involves niche crime like Rudy Giuliani, contempt of court, trying to escape having to be in court physically. Like, that's very niche, but I find it interesting. And sometimes you find like a weird pro se defendant in a federal case that's saying crazy things or is complaining that due to uppercase letters the judge isn't real, and I find that fascinating and I want to cover it. So I do. I've rambled for a while. I think that's good enough for the video. Take care, everyone. I hope you all had good holidays, a good new year. I hope anyone affected by the storm, like the snow and things like the East Coast has been getting, I hope you got through that well. I hope anyone that's dealing with the fires on the West Coast are doing well. And I'll see you in the next video. Might be this weekend, might be Lori Daybell, might be a shorter video covering something else with the Rudy appearance, because I think tomorrow he's going to possibly find out what he's going to have to, like, what his punishment is for contempt. So we'll see. But either way, thank you all. See you in the next video. And if you missed any of the Sarah Boone stuff, again, there's a full playlist with so much coverage. Some of it you might not have seen yet.